Now, as we know, okay, what the literature review is, or what are the purposes of carrying out a literature review. So let's see कि literature review का मतलब क्या है. It's like it is books and writings published on a particular subject. So I've depicted that through a diagram here, or through a snapshot, not a diagram actually, it's a picture that actually shows कि ढेर सारे papers हैं और that needs to be read and highlighted and analyzed, right? So this picture is worth 1,000 words. So this is how a literature review, carrying out a literature review on an MS student's part looks like. So yes, it can be. आप ज़रूरी नहीं है कि आप इसे प्रिंट फॉर्म में ही सारे पेपर्स प्रिंट कराएं and then carry out a literature review. This process can be done even electronically. कि आप you can make on your own repository and आप electronic tools इस्तेमाल करके, software इस्तेमाल करके you can do the same. So we know that literature is about books and writings. So let's just break it apart and go down to its basic unit, जो कि है reading papers. So before you go and start reading a paper, it's important that you should be knowing what your focus is. So उसके लिए you need to be asking your question before you read a paper, why you're doing it, why you're doing this literature review. You need to be focused on what you're trying to do. Specifically when you have finalized your topic of research and you're trying to find out कि और लोगों ने इस topic के ऊपर क्या काम किया हुआ है. This is important because see this in our previous video जहाँ पे मैंने आपको purposes of literature review बताया था. We talked about कि there are different purposes, different ways you can carry out, not ways, like rather different purposes of carrying out a literature review. So seriously, if somebody has done a literature review and he or she has done literature review on 30 studies, लेकिन his focus was on the evolution of a topic, और आप उन्हीं 30 studies को उठाएं, but you do a literature review with a different focus. Maybe your focus is on the theories and the issues with the theories. So the same studies, जो 30 study हैं, they might be the same, लेकिन जो literature review होगा और उसकी जो findings होंगी और उनका जो synthesis होगा, जो इनकी evaluation होगी, that will be totally different. So that means किसी भी एक paper में there are different perspectives that a researcher can look at, right? या किसी एक paper को आप different perspectives से देख सकते हैं. So all the more reason when you start reading your paper, when you start reading your article, तो आप उस focus को अपने दिमाग में रखें, because it's very easy to get distracted by other things. So before you read a paper, you should ask your question कि आप वो paper क्यों पढ़ना चाह रहे हो. Why? Because number one, apart from आपको perspective सामने आ जाएगा, focus सामने आ जाएगा, it will also allow you to pinpoint जो कि the relevant terminologies that are being used in the research papers जो इस्तेमाल हो रही है, and that will allow you to know कि वो terminology किस context में इस्तेमाल हो रही है और आपका कौन सा context है जिसमें, या आपकी कौन सी definition है, या आपका जो research focus है उसमें आप किस context या कौन सी definition आप उठाओगे और इसको इस्तेमाल करोगे. And also it allows you to pinpoint the gaps that you're trying to find out. अगर focus नहीं होगा तो आपको gaps उस लिहाज से नजर नहीं आएंगे. The more focused you are and you find the rationale of other people's work and you find out their discussion, अगर focus होगा तो only then you will be able to evaluate that work against other people's work, others authors' work, and find and extract that gap. Most probably you will not find the gap in front of your face. यानी कि आपको gap बहुत कम होगा कि आपको directly gap मिल जाए in terms of research call. But in most of the cases you have to find that gap. और वो find gap तभी हो सकता है when you are focused about why you're doing the literature review. So reading a paper involves कि आपको पता हो कि जो एक academic article है उसका structure क्या होता है. So a typical paper organization, whether it is a journal paper which is published in a journal or a conference paper जो कि किसी author ने अपनी किसी conference में जाकर present किया है, now it is available in the form of proceedings. तो उसका general जो organization है वो ये होगी कि you always find the title at the beginning of the paper, which will describe the paper's content clearly using keywords from the databases and search engines. So देखें आपके जो title होता है, जो researchers हैं, they give due diligence to while they're writing a title so that वो title representative हो of what they're doing, and they put such keywords जो कि specify करते हैं कि आपका ये article किस field में और किस research को address कर रहा है. So the second the second element in the research paper is the abstract. So title के बाद maybe you'll find some keywords that will tell you कि ये वो keywords आपको बताएंगे कि ये जो article लिखा हुआ है किस aspect को या किस area, किस topic या किस area को जो है ना address करता है. And right after that you will find the abstract, which is a summary. Maybe it will contain maybe 100 and 200 range जो number of words होंगे, that will range from 150 to 200 or 250 depending upon जहाँ पे वो publish हुआ है. And normally abstract will contain a summary of के problem क्या थी जो solve that the researcher was trying to solve, किस क्या method उसने इस्तेमाल किया to find the solution to that problem, solution क्या है और उसके results क्या है, and what was the conclusion. The reader can decide whether or not to read the whole article just based on the abstract. So normally in carrying out literature review, abstracts are a very very good starting point to understand कि this particular research paper or an article वो आपसे relevant भी है या नहीं, because it gives वो दरिया को कूज़े में बंद करने वाली example है. It gives you a short summary of what is to come in detail in the whole paper. Third जो element है in a paper, that is the introduction section. So introduction section के अंदर what is written is in most of the cases the problem is clearly stated, but you might come across some in software engineering की दुनिया में जो है ना introductions जो लिखे जाते हैं वहाँ पे clearly problem investigated नहीं होती, but nevertheless you might be able to find aims and objectives in an introduction section and the reasons for research. So you normally background बनाया होगा, एक narrative दिया हुआ होगा in the introduction section, and that narrative will tell you why what the problem is or why the researcher is trying to solve this problem. और फिर introduction में ही छोटा सा बिल्कुल snippet दी होगी वो summary of the relevant literature in order to again to show why this problem is worth researching. And then जो identified research questions हैं उनके बारे में थोड़ा सा बताया होगा और थोड़ा सा a brief description होगी about the research method जो उन्होंने इस्तेमाल किया हुआ है, जो hypotheses if there are any वो उनके बारे में बताया हुआ होगा, and research questions जो ask किए हैं, and overall general experiment design या method if it is an experiment या उसके बारे में introduction section में के अंदर आपको material मिल जाएगा. And the third element is the method. Now this method section will contain in detail which research method was used to answer the research questions that are posed in this particular research paper that you're reading. और इसके अंदर details मौजूद होगी so that they can understand, and if they want to carry out the same research they can replicate it. And they will explain how the problem was studied, identify the procedures followed, and explain new methodologies and details अगर उन्होंने उसके अंदर कोई changing की है, and also tell you कि if this is a survey तो कितना response rate था, if it is an experiment what was the frequency of observation, the type of data and how it was recorded, वो सारा का सारा method section में you'll find out. And then there will be another element that will be the result section. And result section it will be predominantly the findings and explanation, predominantly the findings, or explanation maybe other section में जो आगे चल के हम लोग पढ़ेंगे, but it will present the findings and it will show how the new results are contributing to the body of scientific knowledge. So वो पूरा the result could be in the form of figures, or it could be in the form of tables, or any other ways, combination of both, or in the form of narrative होंगे. And then it will be followed by discussions and conclusion. And this is where the researcher will be discussing the findings of his or her research that he did in order to answer the research questions. वो उसको describe करेगा कि जो the findings of his research है, how does it answer the research questions जो उसने pose किया है. And in discussion section you will find the comparisons of the जो study conduct की हुई है उसके जो findings आई हैं, compare उसका comparison with the other people work, or it will also discuss कि what are the implications, अगर अलग से implication section नहीं है कि जो findings आई हैं उनकी implications क्या हैं, and findings आई हैं तो it will describe why those findings are, और उनकी description और जो previous literature है in context with that जो आपकी findings हैं और या जो इस research paper की findings हैं वो कहाँ fit in होती हैं. And of course, it will outline in discussion section कि if there is much more work done to be done, या फिर maybe other areas of exploration areas where other researchers can jump in and they can do further research. And this will be followed by the acknowledgements if the study has been carried out by using the help of other researchers which were not part of the research, लेकिन उन्होंने help out किया तो acknowledgement section में होगा, followed by the references where the reference to the literature यानी कि पूरी bibliography आपको दी होगी regarding the references जो इस्तेमाल हुए हैं in this particular study. Alright, so once you know what are the different elements या organization of a research paper कैसा क्या है, and what are the elements in that, now it's time for understanding reading का procedure क्या है. Normally MS के student या PhD के student, or if you're a new researcher वो ये समझते हैं कि reading involves कि एक दफ़ा paper पढ़ा and that's about it, but this is not how a literature review works. In fact, this is not how you do anything in life. I'll give you an example. अगर आप कहीं you're going let's suppose you're going shopping for new clothes, right? It's not that you just go and you just take out what you need. बल्कि आप क्या करते हो, you go to the racks first, आप एक दफ़ा जाते हो and then you come back and again you have to do one thing maybe multiple times in order to arrive and at the final decision. So similarly इसी तरह आपका जो reading literature review में reading है वो एक दफ़ा नहीं होती. It involves multiple steps. It involves multiple iterations. Just like when you're अगर आप अपना कोई कोर्स का लेक्चर पढ़ रहे हैं तो एक दफ़ा रीड नहीं करेंगे बल्कि you'll be reading multiple times. Similar as the case over here, while you're reading an article for your literature review, so it involves multiple iterations, multiple steps of reading, and they are read past one, that's the first step. You have a read past two, that is you read the second time, that means you reread, and then you reread, you read the third time, and then after and this is the minimum that you should have, and then finally you summarize it. So let's have a look at what happens in pass one when what in this step what you're required to do, or what you should be expecting, or what you should be doing, or you should be looking for when it comes to a research paper. तो इसमें step 1 में skimming में है कि you should be skimming the article without taking notes. तो आपने search किया, you found an article, and then you're skimming through the title, you're skimming through the abstract. अगर abstract आपको relevant लग रहा है, then you go and skim through the introduction section, and then the finding section, and then the results section. So you'll be reading the title, the keyword and abstract, subheading, figures and table, and then after that you should be in a position to say that कि ये वाला article, the focus of your research is relevant है या नहीं है, ठीक है? So over here you'll be asking about some question that you would like the text to answer. अगर ये आपसे relevant है, अगर relevant हो गया तो आपके in your mind you have some थोड़ा सा mind map बन गया कि what this article is about, or there might be some questions that are arising while you're reading it or skimming it, okay, that are arising in your mind, and then you think about those questions कि आप maybe जो next article आप read करोगे, the next time that you read this particular article, you'll be asking those questions then. And you should be writing those questions down, and specifically the parts that you don't understand. See this, especially when you're starting literature review, you might not be familiar with all the terminologies or all the क्या कहते हैं jargon that is being used in the literature. So over there, you just write down those parts or those terminologies that you do not understand, and then you go back and you try to familiarize yourself so that आपको next reading में या अगला paper पढ़ने में या इसी paper की next reading when you do the next iteration of the reading, you get familiar with it and you understand the what the researchers were trying to do in a better way. और जब आप skim कर दें, after skimming, you should expect कि you should be able to categorize कि ये research हुई है वो किस type की थी, whether it was empirical in nature. Empirical research वो होती है that involves research methods like surveys, experiments, or other or maybe a case study, या फिर ये simple ऐसा paper था जो theoretical in nature था, or it was an opinion paper जिसमें researcher ने अपना opinion दिया हुआ था, या फिर अगर empirical था तो at the end of the day whether it was of qualitative nature or quantitative nature, ठीक है? So you should be able to categorize that source, and of course skimming के बाद थोड़ा सा आपको पता चल जाएगा कि इसका context क्या था. If you're already have a theoretical focus, so it will allow you कि आप after skimming आप उस पेपर को वो theoretical context दे सकें जो का आपका focus है. And of course after skimming you should also be able to assess the source credibility. And what does it mean कि वो पेपर कहाँ से आया है, कहाँ लिखा था, कहाँ पब्लिश हुआ था, अगर कॉन्फ्रेंस क्या है कि is it a good conference or not, या ये just normal conference ही. If it's a journal paper, तो journal, is it an impact factor journal, या ये or even if it's an impact factor journal, so is it A category, A plus category, or B category journal, और क्या ये credible source से आ भी रहा है या नहीं. और overall मोटा you should be able to know कि इस contribution क्या है इस paper की towards the field. If you able to make it ये article आपसे relevance, if you able to find out कि ये article आपके research से relevant भी है या नहीं है, you should be able to describe the main contribution जो इस article ने की है towards the field of the study or of the research that you're pursuing. And of course you should be able to decide if you will be able to use this article again, or वो आपके अगले round में जाएगा या नहीं जाएगा. So you will be able to after skimming, अगर वो relevant है तो आपको एक अलग से अपने you should be making a repository where you should be putting that article so that you can go and reread again if you decide to.